Hey everyone, welcome to our webinar, The End of the Google Only Era, where local discovery really happens now. Super excited for you all to be here with us today. I think we have a really interesting topic, but before we jump right into it, I want to introduce myself. My name is Casey McBride. I am Sochi's Senior Director of Strategic Consulting. In that role, I have the privilege of managing our SEO team, social media, and data analytics teams that are fully dedicated to our customer base and helping everybody solve everyday problems in these channels that they run into. And with that, I'll turn it over to Kelly Satino, who is on my team.
Hey everyone, my name is Kelly Santino, and like Casey mentioned, I sit on her strategic consulting team here at Sochi, focusing on social media. I live in Pittsburgh, PA, and I have been with Sochi for almost 4 years now. So I'm really excited to talk today about social and search and how we are seeing those channels come closer together than ever before.
Yeah, so wanting to kick us off with just a little discussion. Kelly and I were chatting before this webinar about how things really have changed with regards to where we're discovering and finding new stores or brands or products. I think that there used to be this very singular path of like, okay, well, if I want to find anything or if I need to get information, I'm going to Google it. But that's really changed. So, Kelly, do you want to share kind of what your experience looks like now when you're trying to find someplace new or a different brand?
Yeah, so my husband and I always laugh because when we travel, we will go to TikTok to find a restaurant or excursion before we would go to Google. So we went to London last year for a soccer or I guess football game, and we were going to London and Manchester. And before going to Google and searching restaurants near where we were staying or excursions, we went to TikTok and we found all of our restaurants on TikTok. And holds true for everywhere we go, even if it's more locally. We always just go and search on social first because we want to see the images, we want to see the videos, we want to see the reviews. That means more to us than like Google or Bing does in some circumstances.
Yeah, I'm definitely big on TikTok for me, it's like any beauty brands or things like that. Like I'm big on TikTok for products. I feel like
Yeah.
if I really want to understand how somebody is using something or what they think about it, I'll oftentimes search for that on TikTok. But for me, I've been really big on AI search. So if I like my friends and I are thinking of going somewhere over the 4th of July, and for me, it was like, all right, plan me the perfect 4th of July weekend in whatever city. And it's really great because I can add these kind of like multi-layered questions. So if it comes back and it's like, well, this event is happening and these restaurants I think you'd really enjoy. It's nice to be able to follow that full thread and say like, well, how is this one rated? Is this highly rated? Or do they have this on the menu? Or actually, I'm really in the mood for really good Indian food. Is there a good restaurant for that type of cuisine? Um, and it's just great to kind of plan out your whole itinerary in a space like that, that you know is utilizing all of these different things like Google and Reddit and social media and just bringing it together for you. Um, and so it's really cool to be able to talk about this specific topic because I think we are adopters of it. And I think a lot of people are too without even realizing how their habits have changed so significantly. And so, with all of that being said, it's important to realize that it's not just a funnel that starts with Google anymore. The days of just Google it, aren't necessarily behind us. But I think the use cases of when somebody is going to go to Google or when they're going to go to social media or when they're going to go to AI have really changed. Um, and we're observing that across the board, right? Like we are seeing a lot of people report that search traffic is down. We've heard it in a lot of businesses and their earning calls and things like that. We've seen it in studies published online. Sochi ourselves are seeing this data as well. In fact, we're observing across a lot of the various industries that we work within a general decline in search demand. We're seeing property management search demand down 12%, financial services down 17%, brand search down 11%, and retailers down 17%. And this has just been consistent. We've been observing this for all of 2024. In fact, the second half of 2024, even more significantly. And this trend is continuing into 2025. But it's important to remember that that audience isn't just disappearing. This audience is shifting their behavior. And that's why we're observing less on Google. And so it's really important that brands recognize this, that they don't panic just because their traditional ways of measuring success via Google may be diminishing. Now's the time to really partner with your cross functional team members. If you are a brand that has historically worked in silos of social and SEO and brand and content and ecom, you're doing it wrong now. It's time for all of these teams to really integrate with each other and learn from each other. The SEOs need to learn from the social media team. The social media team needs to learn from the SEOs, and really be able to have a cross functional strategy and account for that traffic where it's getting dispersed. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly to kind of walk us through the first area of local discovery being that social channel.
Thanks, Casey. So, like you mentioned, one of the major shifts we saw in this year's study is that the days of just Google it aren't over, but they are a little bit more rare. So, the customer journey now goes from one search bar to a dozen discovery channels, a few of them on the screen here. 73% of consumers now discover brands on social. And this is interesting because consumers are no longer search led, they're discovery driven. And they don't follow a funnel, they follow what's directly in front of them. So let's talk about Gen Z, as you can see on the screen here. They are consumers age 13 through 28, which is a really wide range, but it also encompasses people at every different stage of life. So young Gen Zers are just becoming teenagers, starting high school, while the elder Gen Zers, which is a funny sentence to say, but they might be closing on their first house or starting parenthood. But the main similarity between amongst this group is their online habits. So Gen Z uses over 3 platforms to validate their purchase before they buy something. So they really trust real people. They want to see real content and they really value real experiences. And they expect to find all of these on their terms. And it's not just Gen Z. So discovery is now a cross platform experience for really everyone. And as a marketer, you're not just being compared to competitors in search results, but you're also being evaluated across every channel and every single touch point matters. You're not just being judged off your Instagram presence or your Google presence. They're judging you on your presence everywhere on the internet. So every touch point is extremely important. If you look at the ages here of 45 to 54, they are actually on social networks social networks more than their Gen Z counterparts are. So 80% of this age group reports using social networks at least once a month. So you're not just focusing on the younger demographic when you're thinking of your social strategy, you really are touching people in every single generation. And there are many different ways that all consumers and age groups discover their needs on social. Sometimes it's straightforward searching, and other times they stumble across something they didn't even know existed, and it is a little bit more discovery driven. So, in this first example here, a consumer is scrolling through a dog's Instagram page, which again is kind of a funny sentence to say, but some people have social networks for their dogs.
I was going to say, as one does, as one does.
As one does. And they saw that that photo was tagged at an apartment complex that they were interested in. So this user then went into Google and searched for the apartment complex to learn more since they were intrigued by the Instagram post. In the second example,
Sorry.
the no, you're good. The second example, the consumer is starting in Google searching for a dog-friendly apartment. And then once they find a complex they're interested in, they then exit Google and go into Instagram to cross reference that this place is actually dog friendly. Because sometimes information's wrong. So they might want to go onto their Instagram page and confirm that, in fact, it is dog friendly. They are seeing dogs there. So that's why it's important to make sure some of the key things about your business are very easily findable and discoverable for people. So here you can see the person is going on to Instagram. One of the first posts they see includes a pet. So then they know, okay, this is pet friendly. I can continue my search into this apartment complex. In the third example, a consumer is searching within Instagram for an apartment complex in Richmond that has a pool. So here they're not even in Google, they're starting their actual journey within Instagram itself, searching for a pool, an apartment complex, and they found one. And then once they discover that, they can leave. They can leave. They can go onto Google. They can, contact the place. There's a lot of different directions that they can take with that. And then there they see in Google that they have the pool, or they have, yeah, the apartment complex has the pool. And then in this last example, the user is starting in Google, searching for an apartment name that they're interested in. And then from there, they actually navigate to their Instagram page that appears in the SERP. So here they're scrolling down and they see their Instagram page. So they're able to click on that and see more images, videos, things that the apartment complex is tagged in, etc. So there are many different social and search journeys, but we wanted to highlight these few here to show you how consumers are not just searching for their needs in every single case, but they are also organically discovering it. And speaking of discovery, here we asked our participants of this study where they have discovered new products, services, or businesses. The green bar represents Google and Bing and additional search engines, which makes sense. The second highest bar in that red color represents social networks. So take a look at our Gen Z group. Almost all of it's almost exactly the same amount as the general search engines. So 55% of this age group is discovering their new needs and products and services on social networks. So that's really important. But even so, looking at 65 plus, which is the demographic that uses social the least, it's still 16% of them discovering on social. So as our chief marketer officer, Monica Ho, often says, it's no longer about ranking first, it's about being present across the entire path to purchase.
Absolutely. And with that is AI search as well. So, even though AI is kind of a smaller piece of the pie, that has way more to do with the fact that it's still relatively new. A lot of folks still haven't really experimented with it yet, or it's still kind of getting its sea legs when it comes to folks adopting it. But 19% of consumers now use AI tools like ChatGPT for local research. So that's not something that brands can easily ignore. And in fact, when we asked our respondents around what kind of tools they use regularly. So, just in general, are you even using these tools? If we look at those age groups between 18 to 24 and 25 to 34, we're looking at 30 to 35% of the time these respondents are using AI tools. That's really significant considering what 2 years ago we were hardly talking about them. It was more like conceptual, and now it seems like everyone I talk to is using their ChatGPT on their phone to look up information and ask questions. And in fact, when we localize that and we look at how customers are using tools like AI to look up local businesses, we see that around 12 to 14% of the time in that age group between 18 to 44, folks are using AI to find information about local businesses. And again, this is just the beginning. This is really early on in that adoption phase, and we're already seeing double digit contributions to how consumers are using this outlet. And this is actually an example. If anybody has been paying attention the past few weeks, Google rolled out their AI mode. Um, and it's really interesting to use it at that local level. So you'll see here in this example, a search was conducted for help me find intro offers for popular gyms and workout classes. And what I want to call out about that query is that it's something that requires what I consider to be a lot of context. So it's not just a traditional search like best gym in Pittsburgh or which I'm also located in the Pittsburgh area. So Kelly and I are going to use a lot of Pittsburgh examples. It's not just something that's very simplistic that a traditional search engine might just pull an example or two from a typical signal. This is asking for intro offers for a popular gym or even workout classes as an alternative. And so, what AI does is essentially takes that and understands that because this person conducting a search needs that context, it's pulling from either the website, if it can find the information of what the customer is looking for on that business website, or oftentimes we'll see AI refer to blog content. And one of the primary reasons for that is because if you think about what blogs do is they provide context. Sometimes it's really hard for brands to get all of that information and all of that content on their website because it's taking up real estate. Maybe they are required to put products or services or things like that on a single page or on a small group of pages, whereas a blog can really dedicate an entire page to this long form type of topic. And so AI kind of pulls all of that together, provides that context for the user, and then is linking to the local businesses as a reference to kind of help the user continue on their journey. And so I did pull a couple different examples. The first one that I'm going to pull up is just an example of searching on ChatGPT. So I am a fan of pineapple pizza. I know it's very controversial, forgive me. And so I asked my ChatGPT, I said, "Hi, I'm really interested in finding the best pineapple pizza in Pittsburgh. Can you help me?" And so what you see ChatGPT doing is it is going to search across the web. It might take a minute, but it does show you kind of what sources it's using. It says, absolutely, here are some top spots where you can enjoy a delicious Hawaiian pineapple pizza. And so I scroll through and it has a similar feel to like a Google result, like what I'm used to in Google Maps, but it does provide really nice summaries and again, that context for me on, why I might want to choose this location. Now, I felt like it kind of gave me too many options and there was a lot there. So I did refine my search and I asked it which one is highly rated or has the highest ratings. And forgive my misspellings when I type. I feel like that I always type and then I have to backtrack because I can never spell something correctly on the first try. So now what it's going to do, it's going to cross-reference the places that it recommended to me, build me a table of its ratings across multiple rating sources, and then highlight what those notable features are. So now I'm looking at these and I'm like, all right, Belisario sounds fantastic. Can you send me information on it? And it's going to send me that information. And I did this because I was curious what it was going to send me. I didn't know if it was going to send me the website or the business listing or what have you, but it was really cool because it outlined a very detailed business listing type summary about this business. And so it gave me menu highlights and customer reviews and the hours that they're opening, and then how I can order online. And then it gave me a link directly to their online ordering system on their website. So that was kind of my journey with ChatGPT, where it's reminiscent of like a traditional local search on Google Maps, but not quite. It's giving me a lot more context and information and really helping me make that decision. And it's also pulling from a lot of different sources. I saw a good bit of blog content and I saw a good bit of Reddit being tossed into the mix to really help kind of qualify that search result. Now I wanted to see what AI mode was like, right? Because it's powered by Google. So I wanted to understand how similar is this going to be to my traditional experience on Google Maps. And so again, I said, I'm interested in finding the best pineapple pizza in the Pittsburgh area. Can you help me? What I thought was really interesting with this result is again, you see it. Well, it's taking a minute, but again, you see it picking up like blog type content at the top, but also Reddit. So I see Reddit get used a lot as a qualifier in AI search results, especially when it's like an opinion type based. Because of course, like best pineapple pizza, yeah, it can be highly rated. Best is usually that qualifier. But when you say best, it's also relative to what people have to say about it. So a lot of times Reddit will get pulled into the mix to help add that context for the end user. What I thought was interesting though is the results that I was getting were pretty different than the results I got on ChatGPT, which I thought was strange because they both used Reddit and they both are using business listings and looking at it. Um, I think there's going to be a lot more that we as marketers still need to discover around why those differences may be and what these AI tools are doing to qualify those leads. It did seem like AI overviews was definitely favoring a little bit more of Google, as you would expect it to do in its results. But then, of course, I clicked on a business and my experience was almost identical to what I would see on Google Maps. And so with that, I did want to end with at least comparing it to what that experience is like on Google Maps and how it was different. You will notice the results, I think, switched up a little bit from an order perspective. But again, I still wound up with the same Fiore's. If you're in the Pittsburgh area, you know Fiore's is really good. Pittsburgh Lupo or Pizza Lupo or whatever that was called was on there too. And it was kind of at least similar to the experience that I got on AI overviews once I kind of clicked through. They're all going at once. There we go. So with that, Kelly and I were talking through all of these different examples and the fact that marketers may find this really overwhelming at first on how do I approach and what can I do about it? And you're showing me all these really cool new features, but I don't know where to go next. So we wanted to leave you guys with some idea about how you can try to optimize for search experience in these new avenues and in these new channels that people are adopting.
Yeah, so these changes are happening quick, and it can even feel overwhelming. But the great news is that there are definitely ways to optimize. You can actually help your business do better in these times. So you need to be findable across all platforms that consumers are using to explore. That's really the main goal here. Doing so, some ideas here. So using descriptive captions and text overlay on images and videos on social is really helpful. Different networks will crawl that and it will help you appear in search. You want to practice a strong community management strategy. So you should be engaging or responding with every single comment or direct message that is left on your social channels. It's extremely important to have a presence on multiple channels as well. So we learned from the study that consumers are using several different platforms a month. So you want to make sure that you're in all of those touch points. Social search engine optimization is bigger than ever. So, a low hanging fruit recommendation would be to connect your social profile URLs into your Google listing. And then, lastly, you want to focus on quality content whenever you're posting. So, always quality over quantity. When doing organic social, 80% of your content should be educational, informative, or entertaining. The majority of the content is not meant to be promotional. It should feel local and it should feel authentic.
Yeah, and one thing that I want to call out on here too for anybody interested, so she did conduct a really interesting study with our friends over at Google around the connecting Google and social profiles. We actually saw really positive results when business listings were connecting their social profiles. So definitely recommend. I think it is still posted like on the Sochi website to be able to watch that webinar that we had with Google where we kind of shared those findings. I believe Google has a write up on it as well. So, from a data perspective, we know this stuff works too. And then when we talk about AI, I do want to preface with there is a whole world of things that are still being discovered and write-ups. I actually think Mike King just had a massive write-up on how AI works and what it's crawling and what it's looking at on your website. And so it can be really, really overwhelming. And this is like hardly scratching the surface on what you can do. I actually just met with some of our other friends at Sochi around what we want to talk about when it comes to AI and how to get picked up. So definitely anticipate a lot more content around AI search in the future from Sochi. Stay tuned for what we want to talk about there. But there are a couple things that are important to note and very basic things if you want your business to appear in AI search. First off, it's the same playbook from an SEO perspective when it comes to your listings. Make sure that they are fully optimized. And what I mean by that is make sure you have a rich quantity of photos on your listings. Make sure you are maximizing your services and attributes when you can. Make sure you are fully optimized around your primary category and your additional categories. Make sure you are linking to your business page. Make sure you are uploading Google posts. Make sure you're linking to your social profiles, really just making your business listing feel as complete as possible and making sure your data is accurate across other networks. We are seeing AI use Yelp a lot in results as well. And so making sure that you are sending your information out using a provider like Soshi to do so is really important. The other thing too is make sure that your website is well optimized, that you have really clean content blocks, that it's organized. And what I mean by that is making sure that your pages are broken out in a very clean and easy to digest outline of way. One of the things that I like to say is looking at your header tags on a page, using those as if you were writing an outline in a college class and you're kind of outlining the topics that you need to care about. Your header tag should be really complete with what you're about to cover and really clean in that sense. And that can kind of help organize your content on a page. A big one is going to be answering questions that customers are asking. So, making sure that you understand what frequently asked questions are about your products, your services, your business, and that content is being written on your page. But also, and this is my last point, make sure that it is marked up with schema. Make sure that you are maximizing and experimenting with schema markup, that you are really marking up as much as you can on your page, because we have noticed that schema markup tends to influence AI results as well. And then the last thing I'll say is really the best way to understand how to get your business to show up in AI is to adopt AI. If you want to see what the experience is like for your business, conduct searches on AI that you believe you need your business to appear for. And that's really the best way to understand what those qualifiers are, what people are popping up. I don't have this on here, but we've noticed a lot of blog content again. And so maybe you need to partner with your own kind of PR internally, your own teams that work with like branding and communications for regional areas, and make sure that they're talking about your business as well if you want it to appear for some of those longer tail type of searches. And with that, that is it from Kelly and I. What I do want to note is that all of these stats that we quoted are actually available in Soshi's Consumer Behavior Index, or our CBI study. Highly recommend that you guys check it out. There will be a lot more content published around that CBI study, so stay tuned for that. One of the best places to stay tuned for that information is by following our Instagram page or checking us out on LinkedIn. We are constantly posting, whether it's like quick snippets of things that are happening in the industry or promoting different webinars and things like that, that we would love for you all to continue to attend in the future. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Thanks, everyone.